welcome to the Hero Journey podcast. I'm Cody Broderick, excited to be with you today. Our mission at Hero is to create heroes who transform themselves and then go on and transform the world. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, all of our socials, hero.windows. We also just recently released a video that talks about how we create heroes. You can check it out on YouTube, but got a really special guest with us today. I could talk about Rob Sperry for 20 minutes of his bio alone. He's got a really incredible bio between business. I think the company that he built has been in over 40 countries, written 11 books, personally spoken, I think, in 20 or so countries. Just a very decorated business background. I met Rob at a We Are the Day conference, and we have so many speakers come, and they're all great, but Rob really stood out. And so reached out to Rob. He came to Hero and spoke to our entire group during our first module, Vision and Goals, during the Hero Journey. So it was awesome. Everyone
in my backyard. It was legit
right,
3 minutes away.
Right in Lehigh. Yeah. So, but the thing that really stands out most to me, there's so many things that we look at to kind of become a hero in your life and a hero journey. And sometimes people crash and you got to rise in that journey and what to do in that. But I think leading your family, a hero really, does a good job leading their family. And something I really respect and admire about you is your family and the relationship that you have with your wife and your kids. And then the byproduct of something I want to talk about with you today is that mini mastermind that you built with the kids.
Yeah.
And just that culture and the format and what's happened and the takeaways. And so, obviously we're trying to create heroes who transform themselves. Much of our workforce, they're younger adults, they're early 20s, but we find that no matter what we're talking about, it really helps people in their 30s or 40s. And it's this rinse and repeat of continuing to learn more about yourself. So such an honor to have you, man. Thank you so much for your time and coming down and hanging out with us.
Yeah, always glad to be here and love the mission that you're on. And I always say in any business, the business behind the business is this stuff. So the fact that you focus so much time on building the personal development and the growth of who they become is so important, because that's really what creates culture. And I look at it, if you can be part of a business, regardless if you started the business or you're an employee or a partner, whatever the association is, if you can feel like you're a better person from it, then those are the intangibles. That's the huge win. I mean, most people, when you look at statistics, they don't actually leave a job because of pay. Now, let's pay them well, but it's not because of pay. It's lack of appreciation, it's culture, all the things that go into it. And so for me, I look at the businesses that I build, they've been associated with the good ones. I feel like I'm a better father, husband, friend, leader, neighbor, human being because of those. And so that for me is what is really what it's about. Those are the principles that when you showed me like your framework before you started, I was like, geez, can I just steal this? This is so amazing. Because they're just right in line with a lot of the ways that we think. You just structured it so well. So excited to be on today.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Yeah, that really resonates. We focus, at the company on a high level of fulfillment, this heart and soul stuff of leading with love, believing in people, caring for them, but showing them how to live better. Not just dumping knowledge on them, but like showing them, walking them down the path of doing that. So, and then of course, achievement, like let's go out and crush sales. Let's go out and dominate. Let's go out and win, right? And expand and grow. So achievement, fulfillment, progress, it creates such a good culture. So tell us about the youth group, man. Just tell us about your kids, the structure. You run this incredible youth group with your kids, teens, and it's turned into this mastermind. So I'd love you to speak about that and the format and how that's been going.
Yeah, it was about a year and a half ago. My son and his friends, they were the kids were always all over the house, right? They're at our house. There's like 12 plus kids and they're there. And as they're at the house, you hear different conversations. You start to worry in a good way. That's part of being a parent, of like, am I doing the best that I can do? And in the end, their decisions, whatever they make, that's part of being a parent. You just love them. And so I'm thinking about, okay, what can I do? What can my wife do? What can we do collectively? What are our talents and our abilities, right? Our weaknesses we already know. And there's certain things, like, I'm just gonna be honest, like I'm not the best at like school. I never was. And so I've kind of passed a little bit of that on to my kids, right? Not making excuses, just reality, taking full responsibility for it.
Yeah.
And so, I look at what are the talents? What can I do? So I started hearing a bunch of the kids talk, and like they just weren't sure. They didn't have direction. And one kid said, "I'm never going to be rich like you," to my son, Cade. He said, "Because I just don't have the connections like you do with your dad." And I heard that, and I was like, what? Like, where does that limiting belief come from? Especially in the area that you're living in, right? Especially, but even for everyone, there's so many ways. So I said, "Okay, guys, we're doing a mastermind." So they're like, "Well, what is it? What is it about?" I'm like, just be here.
Yeah.
So we started out with, I think we had 5 or 6 kids. Jeremy Nevis kicked it off, and
Yeah.
we go there, and I'm like, "Look, I'm thinking about starting this thing." He's like, "I'm busy, but yeah, for you, I'll come." And he came, and we just kind of just went on. And I think the second one we had like Sam Taggart, and then we had Ron Williams, right, bodybuilder, like all these world championships. And we just kept going and going and going. Jimmy Rex and Sean Whalen, and just kept going with these different guests. And it kept growing to the point where these kids were shooting private messages to me begging, like, how could they come? And they were asking the other kids if they could come.
Do you have space?
Yeah, and these kids are taking notes, and the parents are like, what is happening? My kid's like teaching about all this personal development and stuff and business and life and all that. And everything's principle oriented. We don't tell them things like, you should do school or you shouldn't do school. Like our goal is to be more principle oriented of teaching, right? Those principles. And of course they can decide. They have their own unique things on what can be good or what they want or stuff like that. And so that's where it started, and it went from 5 kids. I think at the peak we had about 30 kids, and then we had 13 or 14 graduate. Even still, we had more fill in. So even still, we have 22, and we've probably turned down like hundreds, literally hundreds, just because we'll see where it goes. But I was just trying to help my kids. So we got my daughter now. She's a junior in high school, and so she's got all of her friends, and we got other kids and friends that are there that are coming, which is it's been amazing. I mean, some of the stories I can't share because you just never know who's going to see it, but some pretty dramatic, life-changing stories of kids that, everything from insane, massive depression as you can expect, and what comes with that, to parents just texting like, I haven't seen my kid this happy for 4 straight months ever, and just in tears. And you've seen kids start businesses. You've seen kids just like one kid literally graduated and didn't go hang out with his friends because he wanted to go knock doors, and went to Texas. And he's like, I don't even care if I get my butt kicked. He's like, because you taught us, we fell forward. And he's like, either way, I'm just going to use this and parlay this into more. And came back and told us X amount of thousands of doors that he had knocked and how it's going to help him. He's fearless now. I'm like, geez, wow. Like, so it's been fun. So we'll see. We've thought about doing like a huge event. But yeah, I was just trying to help out my kids and their friends.
That's so cool. You started to answer my next question, which was, what impact have you seen on the kids, and the impact that it's had in their life.
You start seeing even like little things like appreciation. And we talk about, at least it was for me, I feel like I had a very abundance mentality, but even still when I was young, I don't know if you were the same, but when I was young, it was like, I still feel a little bit of that jealousy. Like if someone had made a lot of money when I'm 22, in some ways it kind of felt like I was failing. I felt a little bit jealous. I never shared it or showed it.
Yeah.
And I was showing, with them, like, look at all these speakers coming. We share with each other their wins. If their win's 1,000x mine, I'm like, good, props to you.
Yeah.
It inspires me. It doesn't intimidate me. It doesn't make me jealous. And I said, that's part of it. I said, for you guys, it's not about I'm better than them or not. It's be inspired by each other and encourage each other. Instead of saying, well, this friend's just always a quitter, just say, hey, this friend needs to work on that, and how can I help them with that? And so, you've started to see a lot more of camaraderie, a lot more abundance mentality, a lot more networking. So we're at the high school tennis championships, and my daughter's there, and several of the girls that come to the mastermind are there. And one of the girls looks at me, and she's like, should I go network right now? I should go get to know everyone and network.
That's awesome.
Like awareness is a word that isn't talked about enough.
Yeah.
And you can't really improve anything unless you become aware of it.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they're aware at such a young age, the power of networking. Another little hack I did is I didn't speak for the first 9 sessions
Yeah.
on purpose, because think every speaker that came in was edifying me, and they're like, how does Rob know all these people? And so I let it bust out of the seams, where eventually I was like, hey, are you going to speak? You going to speak? You going to speak? And then I went up and I spoke. And so, it was fun. So I did that on purpose to just kind of let it build a little bit. So I was showing them that, hey, my strength, I've got a lot of weaknesses, but one of my greatest strengths is really collaboration and networking. I'm a networker. I know how to network and professional at making friends and helping people and taking care of them. And oftentimes there's nothing that ever comes about it. And sometimes it's 10 years later. I remember a guy, regional rep for Mercedes, is the story I give the kids. And he always wanted a little help with tennis, and he was good, but we weren't the same level. I would still play with him. I played college tennis. I was semi-pro, and so I'm playing tennis with him a little bit. And it was probably 12 years later. I call him up. I'm like, hey, I'm looking to get a Mercedes. Who should I reach out to? Right? I'm not thinking like anything. And he's like, actually, I get friends and family discount where it's employee discount at cost. Can't get it cheaper anywhere, 2 a year. He's like, I'm not using one of them. You've always taken care of me. Why don't you take it and use it?
Nice.
And these kids are like, what? I'm like, I didn't think someday, 12 years from now, right? It's just, I'm always trying to give more than I take. I'm always trying to find ways to provide more value than I receive as much as possible. And in the end, right, it's networking capital that you build.
That's magic, because I think so many people are always like, what's in it for me? And they don't understand that serving first, has so much value. And I love that you're teaching these things. It'd be incredible if this was some of the content they were teaching in high school, because you and I didn't get any of that. It's like we have to go stumble and fall and scrape our knees and go through all these life lessons of figuring it out.
Now it's fractions. I'm like, what are fractions? My kids come to me for help. I'm like, I can't help you. I didn't get this stuff in high school. Let alone now I'm like, go talk to your mom. I don't understand what's
my
going
boy
on.
the other day was talking about the Pythagorean theorem, and I'm like, oh, I remember that, but I don't remember how to do it.
You get to 5th grade, and I'm like, okay, I'm peaked. I'm capped.
Plus, minus, multiplication. I was telling my boy that the other day. I'm like, look, buddy, unless you're gonna go to Tesla or SpaceX or something, or NASA, you're gonna be an electrical, mechanical engineer or a mathematician. This doesn't even mean anything. I'd rather have you and we at home give them $50 a book for personal development books.
Yes.
And there's stacks of them.
I need to do more.
$50 a book.
We did that for our 2 olders. I need to do it for my 12-year-old, but we were doing, I can't remember how much. It wasn't quite 50, depending on the book. But it's great.
So I have a question, just transitioning. I still want to stay on the youth, because it doesn't matter if they're, 17, 16, 19, 23, 24. Really anybody, people can go through hard times. They can go through slumps, maybe even depression. And I think, and even the data shows, how challenging it is for youth with social media and things like that. Has that topic came up in any of these groups? And how do you see the kids working through slumps or hard times, or maybe supporting one another with that?
Yeah, it's been brought up often, especially from the speakers, and speakers even had the kids be vulnerable and raise their hands and how it's affected them. And, there's several different principles that are taught. Some of them are sometimes, obviously, you got to take a break, and it's easy to take a break because we're addicted to notifications. Just log out, right? Sometimes just a little fast, like, don't worry, you're not going to miss out that much. Other times you got to mute certain people. Other times you got to unfollow certain people as you go. And then other things is really just, I think the biggest thing that I personally try to teach is more of how to deal with it rather than completely avoid it. I personally believe, and this is just me, there's no right or wrong, that a lot of people have gone towards the completely just avoid. It's very, very hard to avoid. It's possible. But rather than doing that, I try to teach people how to deal with it. So for me, it's block, unfriend, unfollow, mute, snooze, right? For me, it's being deliberate of logging in and logging out. It's turning off notifications. It's learning where I'm at mentally, so I know how it's creating a reassociation of finding ways. I teach the kids. I teach this anytime I speak. Anytime you have a problem come to your mind, think of 3 solutions. So if a negative thought comes to your mind when you see a post, instantly you think of 3 solutions. So you retrain your brain to work for you rather than against you. So you're thinking of ways like, okay, if I feel like this, why do I feel like this? What are 3 solutions, right? What are 3 positives? What are 3 things, I can make happen? So I teach more of that because there's just so many different perspectives from parents on, which platforms and how often and all that stuff. And so I it's tough, right, to go there. And so that's what we've done. But we also, of course, talk about the great quote of comparison is the great thief of joy. And, people negatively compare. And again, that's a perspective. And so looking at that and the comparison game and just manage, how are you feeling, right? What are you thinking? The goal in this life is progress. And if you're getting stuck in the rut and it's not helping you, then yank out the weed, right? Maybe it's social media off for even just a day. Sometimes it's just even a couple hours because they're on it so much. So yeah, a lot of it is just how to deal with it rather than avoid it.
I think, that's powerful as it goes back to what you're talking about with awareness. It just, creating that awareness of being able to work through it.
Yeah.
So you guys, like I mentioned when we started the podcast, I love the energy of your family. Just, I don't even know you guys actually very well, but just the energy that you have at home with your kids, the way you support them with your wife. Do you guys have any traditions or anything that you do daily as a family, or like, what, this is something that really makes us magic that you could share with anybody that's listening to this that could tap into that special family culture?
Yeah, for sure. We have, for us, I would look at it, as far as traditions go, besides like the typical cliche traditions that, I think everybody tries to create, whether it's around holidays or different seasons like that. When we didn't have money, it was trying to make time to do short trips. And those short trips, maybe it was just driving up 45 minutes and staying in a hotel and finding the cheapest hotel we could, right? Maybe saving up points. And then eventually, as we had more money, then it was traveling to other locations and destinations. Like we just did, just October alone, I rented out Pirates Cove in Boulder City.
Yeah, right? I saw that.
It's got the Treasure Island pirate ship in there, 26,000 square feet. We rented that whole thing. And so I did a little combo because that's the kids' favorite place where I had some work there. And then all the kids got to come. They got to bring friends. And so they're just loving it. Of course, I'm doing like half work, right? And then a week later, we went and did Kauai. And we did Kauai for a week. Yeah. And for us, those are times when you're present. And those are the memories that you get to actually really, really create. So it's been a lot more focus on that. Even if it's sporting where, we'll travel for tennis tournaments, 8, 9, 10 times a year. At least with the kids. And so it's like we're all going. It's like go play and then go eat and then play and then hang out. And we got some extra time. Let's go see a movie. Because it's like finding times where it's like forced time together, not in a negative forced way, right? In a positive way. And so it's expanded. And so now we do about 7 family vacations every single year, which has just been tremendous. And then at home, we try to find like those special times, right? Whether it's daddy-daughter date or it's like hang out with my sons and different things like that. I do tennis with them, whatever sport they want to be in, right? Tennis is just the default sport. So I'm like, hey, whatever you want to do, I'm all in on it. And they all migrated towards tennis. Some went other directions, came back like, hey, whatever you're all in, right? I support you. And I just want to be like that dad that's like, you know what? Whatever sport you choose, I'm there. Like that's one of my top hobbies is whatever my kids' hobbies are. Mm-hmm. And we get to do that and be around. And so that creates just so much time. And then Sundays, I completely just unplug. It's just complete, just 100% family day. Focused, and you know what pretty much Saturday is? Obviously, my wife and I will do, date night and stuff like that. And they want to hang out with their friends anyway Saturday night. But, a lot of Saturday is, whether it's kids' sports or different things that we do or we're playing stuff with them. But it's just being deliberate. It's like anything in life. Are you going to be a firefighter or an architect? A firefighter reacts to everything. You don't really design what you want. It's like you just end up with whatever house you get. An architect designs the perfect home. Now, when you're designing the perfect home, it doesn't mean there aren't a lot of changes. There aren't some setbacks that happen when you design and build the home. Of course, we still have those as well. But you're more likely to end up getting what you want when you're an architect designing what you want rather than a firefighter reacting to every single thing. And so as much as we possibly can, we're doing that. My wife's already asking about what are the big Christmas lights called. I forget, over at Thanksgiving Point.
Illuminati.
Yeah, Illuminati.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
So, yeah.
She's already like texting the whole family, like, hey, what night are we going, right?
That's fun.
You
I love
know,
doing that with my
and
family
she's
too.
just like, you know, already planning with the kids. What do you guys have, right?
Very diligent, just
Yeah,
planning
it's
those
just
experiences.
like, okay, yeah. So it's just kind of just set, like, this is what we do. So just scheduling it in is important instead of rather letting it happen.
I love that, actually. It makes me think of two things. One, and you might remember this, one of the quotes that you shared that really just stuck with me. It's actually part of our values at Hero. You said, good leaders build vision, great leaders give vision.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of backing up a little bit. I think it's amazing that you're giving vision to all this youth and these teens. So I love what you're doing with that group. But second, kind of fast forwarding to that family dynamic and what you guys do, you inspired me showing those one-on-one trips that you book with your kids. So when our oldest boy turned 13, we took him for a full week down to NASA Space Camp in Houston. So he was at Space Camp from 8 to 4, and he'd come out and he was motor mouth for 3 hours about lunar modules and rockets they built and going to look at the swimming area and all these cool things the astronauts do. And then we had him, though, all night. So we were down at Galveston on the beach, going to Rainforest Cafe, mini golfing, painting our faces, like this one-on-one connection time. And you inspired me to do that.
Oh, that's so
Actually,
cool.
You did. I don't know if I've ever told you that.
No,
You
I
did.
didn't know that.
So next year, our other boy, he's gonna be turning 13. So we're taking him, and not as well traveled as your family, but we love traveling and cruising and doing all these things.
Yeah.
We went to Disney Alani in Honolulu a few years back, and he's just been constantly asking to go back. And he said, for when I turn 13, can I go there? And so my wife and I are like, yeah. So next June we take him just one-on-one for that solo time, and you were the one that inspired me to do it.
Oh, that's so
I don't
great,
think
man.
I've ever been able to give that back. When you started talking about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this came from Rob.
Oh, I just did an event, had I think 120 people there, and had probably 5 people that told me that they had booked and I didn't know. And I'm like, that right there to me is impact, and just, you just get like fired up and excited, because that one-on-one time just makes all the difference. They're like looking forward to it, the connection you create, right? That's right when the massive critical years come, where you want them to have that love and trust, because they're going to make some huge mistakes. We all do. That's okay. But you want them to feel like they can come to you, because they can't come to you. Who are they going to come to?
Yeah.
And so, doing that and solidifying that relationship is just, all my kids look forward to it so much. And I do too. Like, I'm jealous. My wife's going with my daughter for her big 16-year-old trip, where they get to choose anywhere they want when they're 16, to Australia. And so they'll be there for 2 weeks in January. And I'm like, man, I'm jealous. Like, I want to be there. I want to go. And so she's going and doing that, which will be amazing. And they'll create such a, another level bond, which they already have a great relationship.
Yeah. I remember you telling actually our company about the trip that you went on with your son too.
Yeah.
And how it just.
Yeah, he was the only kid of the 4 kids that, for whatever reason, I just felt this dad guilt. I felt like I was doing everything I was supposed to, and just didn't connect. And we just didn't have a lot in common. And I just kept trying, and he would get annoyed by me. I would get annoyed by him. And I just like, he could feel it, I could feel it. And so my wife would be always the one that had to talk to him. So we got this trip, a 16-year-old trip, and we went a couple months before he was 16, just worked out with the dates. And I'm like, where do you want to go? He didn't know. And then he's all into supercars. I'm like, Dubai? He's like, yeah. So we book it. I surprise him with business class, right?
Oh,
you don't have to do that. That's just extras. Like, people are like, why don't I have the money? No, like, get creative. I'm just giving you things you can do, right? If you have it. If you don't, just get creative. It's about the time. That's the most important thing. But he's like, oh my goodness. Like, he's freaking out. Like, surprised him. And then we get there and like seriously, wake up in the morning and he just hears like every supercar. He's like, Dad, that's that. I have no clue. He's like, that's this car, this car. We did everything from skydiving to we went and did the desert. We went and swam with sharks. They got that mall that's like top 10.
Yeah, I've been to that one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like just, all the stuff, because you've been there. And we went and did just all the stuff. I let him, a friend, brought his Lambo out. And so they just floored it, went through it. Then went to the racetrack and they took a Ferrari and a pro driver took him in the Ferrari. Like on and on and on of stuff that, we did. And we went on a yacht and we did like a speedboat out there. And it was like it was weird. It was just like instantly went from fighting to no fighting. Now I can't promise. I don't even think that's normal. I don't know how it happened. I still have tried to figure out there's certain things, I have like certain ideas on it, but it's like since that we became like good friends and then became best friends. And eventually it was like go to lunch every week. And it was like, he wanted to play pickleball 3 days a week before, he graduated and all these cool experiences. And so I attribute it to that. Now I could have never imagined that. That goal was just to strengthen the relationship. That's an extreme example. Yeah. But it's one we'll remember. And then my daughter, she's a freaking good salesperson. She's got to go sell for you guys when she graduates, man. She's so good. She's like, Dad, you always say, because on stage I show all these family vacations and memories and share my experience. I say, die with memories, not with dreams. Like that's my mantra. Mm-hmm. And she's like, Dad, he's gone. He's going to be graduated. He's going to be out of the house. And so, we got to create these memories. So she's like selling me on the stuff I sell. And she's like, awesome. So let's just do it. Let's add a trip, right when they're graduating. And she's like, and, I'm old enough, so let me just come along. So they went out and flew out. My wife and I were in Europe for 3 weeks, and the last week they flew out. And so we did like the French Riviera, and we did Monte Carlo.
Yeah.
My son got to dress up, do the James Bond. We went in the James Bond like casino because you only have to be 18. So it was like, dude, this is so cool. And saw like cars that I still don't even know what they're. He's like, that's worth $2 million. I'm like, I don't even know what it was called, but it was pretty cool.
Let's take a picture.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
So,
I love that, man. It's really smart. It's intentional. On the topic of being intentional, we're moving into the back half of this year, November, December. One of the things we're doing at the company right now is talking to everyone about planning.
Yeah.
Planning for 2024, personal planning. Obviously, for me, there's a lot of personal and business. So on the parallel of talking about the wife and the kids. What do you guys do, in your relationship to plan for 2024? And then do you bring your kids into any of that too to help them kind of think about what they're doing?
Yeah, so combination. One, that gives me a good idea that I haven't done the last couple of years, so taking full responsibility that I need to. What my wife and I used to do is we'd create a goal for each other. So it'd be something that that bothered her. Or bothered me, or she just wanted me to do, or I wanted her to do, and the other one just did it. And so like one year, like she's reading all her books. I'm like, you're not reading any personal development books. She's like, yeah, kind of boring. So one year I created where she had to read a book every month.
Nice.
And she ended up liking 6 or 7 out of the 12. And then one year she created it. You know how it is, like the famous where the wife asks you to do something, you do it. But I mean, in your mind, you're like, I'm going to get it done. But in their mind, it's like when they ask you to do it, it's like they want it done in like 0.1 seconds. So it's like, if it was like, okay, I need help, can you go do this? Unless it was like absolutely like I couldn't do it, I had to do it like right in the moment. And then she was really bugs with me, like biting my nails. So it was like, no more biting nails. So I stopped doing that, years ago. And so we started creating like these little ones, and that was super, super cool. As a family, a lot of them we help them with their individual goals, whether it's, sports or whatever it is that they want. And then you reverse engineer and kind of work backwards and help them out a little bit. Got to figure out what that is with the 9-year-old. The 9-year-old, he's the youngest of 4, and he like loves it when he gets out, but he's always like, I just want to chill. I just want to stay home. And then he's the kid that loves nature when he gets out, or, sports. But so we do little things like that as we go. The older kids, it was always a little bit easier with, obviously. younger kids. That's good. I love that you asked that because I actually feel like I do a lot, like in general, like macro, we're always talking and working towards, but I feel like I need to do better at creating like specifics with them for this next year.
Well, I know you're big on vision. You're big
Yeah.
on images and vision boards and things. So that's actually for me was like, I wonder what if Rob's
Yeah.
doing that with the youth group or with your family or anything.
We've talked and we've done a session where we talked about it. We need to do a session where we like have them actually build it.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and those are, one of the things at Hero is we bring in amazing people like yourself, and we dump a lot of knowledge. But one thing that we try to do is actually give them tools like templates and spreadsheets and things. We do that internally. So on the topic of family and kind of staying with your wife, I think that you guys have a really special, beautiful relationship. For sure, hashtag relationship goals, you guys would show up all over the place. Yeah. What do you guys, as the chair breaks, yeah, edit. What do you guys do maybe to keep that vibrance and keep your relationship thriving? Anything that you feel like that is key to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing when you start out is commitment and trust. And I know it's a two-way street. Trust me, I get it. Some people are like, oh, I doing my part, right? Like all you can do is all you can do. But I remember when we were first dating, I never had a serious relationship ever. Like longest relationship I ever had was 6 weeks. And I'm dating my wife, and then as we're dating, we start getting serious, and we're engaged, and then we have our first like big fight. And I'm panicking because I'm thinking like, oh no, like she's just gonna say it's done, it's over, like cut it off. And so I ask her, I'm like, Janae, so what does this mean? She said, what do you mean? I'm like, well, what does this mean like with us in our relationship? She's like, she kind of looks at me like confused. We're going to have lots of fights. Like, that's just part of it. She's like, it's just what's going to happen. She's like, doesn't matter. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like, she just showed me, like, right there her commitment that this is, like, she had a realistic view that it's part of any serious relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So, couple of things. Number one, in our marriage, and if you have done that, have done what I'm about to say, that's okay. You can only start right now. But we have never, ever said the D word. Divorce, we've never said. Now, most couples have, even if they have the best relationship ever, right? Emotion stuff. But we never wanted to cross that line, right? I'm sure there's several times in her mind she's thinking it. She wants to throw stuff at me and kill me. 100% get that. But that was something we just didn't want to go because you start making empty threats and you never know where it can lead, and then the trust becomes unraveled. And so it's okay if you're pissed at me, you hate me for the moment, whatever, but we don't cross that line.
Yeah.
Number two is we always do date night. We do not miss a week of doing date night. So if I'm leaving out of town, then we'll do it on a weekday, even if it's just quick dinner for an hour. Kids know it too. Like it's really good because you can tell people things, you can tell your kids things, but showing them is the most important. Action. And so they're just like, another date night?
That's weekly for you.
Yeah. Every single week we find time to do a date night, like without fail. So that's number two. Number three is we always have made time to do trips with just her and I. Now, again, there's the broke stages of life that we all go through, and maybe you're in it now, people, but you can make time, right? And so for us, whether it's saving credit card miles or whatever, getting creative or whatever it is, but, so it's smaller
in your
trips.
backyard.
Yeah.
Just here.
Whatever. You just figure it out. It's just time. Like, it's just time to get away. And it's even more important when you have kids. Because I would always say I get my wife back when we go on a trip because, you love your wife loves you, but all of a sudden the kids come and this becomes like the stress, in a good stress, I get it, but it's still stress and a priority. And so oftentimes people feel like they don't get each other and who they were. And so they just go through the motions, and no wonder kids leave and they get divorced.
Yeah.
And so for us, we love our kids. We love every phase of our kids. And we'll have a ton of fun when our kids all graduate because we have fun together. So now we just do more of those trips. So like this year we've done Bora Bora, Seychelles, and then we did 3 weeks in Europe. Of course, the kids came the last week. And so we invest in the extremes, a lot of the extremes with the kids and kid trips. I coach my kids' high school tennis team 6 months out of the year between the boys and the girls, 25 hours a week. And so I invest in the things that I love. And so this goes to the last principle I'll say with everything. And those are kind of the key things for our relationship. I think too many people get so addicted to the things they like. Maybe they like watching TV, right, as an example. And because of that, they don't have enough time for the things they love. There's a lot of things that I like. And it's not bad to spend time on things you like. But the older I get, the more I'm trying to spend less time on the things I like and spend time on the things I love. Like I used to watch, I hear Jimmy talk about it all the time. I was the same. I used to watch like 20 hours of like sports. Now it's like highlights and maybe I'll watch on average in a week like 20 minutes. Now maybe there's like a certain time, certain game I got to watch, and so I'll go watch it for 3 hours or 2 hours or something like that. But I mean, average week, it's probably like 20 minutes. It's not that I don't like it. I like sports a lot.
Yeah.
I still do like sports, but I love my family. I love my friends, my relationships. I love traveling. I love empowering other people and fulfilling with my talents, right? And some of those things pertain to my business, right? And growing who I am. And so invest more in what you love rather than being addicted to your likes, because so many are just so addicted to their likes, they never gain more of what they love.
That was solid. That was awesome, man. I think it's a perfect time to probably end it on that note. And just again, thank you so much, man. I really enjoyed spending time with you, and just love the example you are in the community as an individual, husband, father, leader, friend, and what you're doing to help people get better and lead that charge. So thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me on, Cody.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Absolutely.